Welcome back to the Pig Trail. I am talking now with two former Hogs, Austin Allen and Travis Swanson, both joining me right now. And guys, let's just start things off talking about the call that, was it a fumble? Was it a backwards pass? Was it not? Intentional grounding? I don't even know anymore. Let's talk about it. Austin Allen, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think everyone in the world knew that that was a fumble and a lateral except the referees on the field.
Yeah.
Um, it was as blatant as could be. For Mike Pereira, the head of NFL officiating, to comment on it and tweet about it saying it should have been hog ball, they had a clear recovery, kind of says all that needs to be said. But just a heartbreaking loss. The way they battled back from 17 down to even get in that position and for it to end that way is just really disappointing.
And Travis, what about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was very apparent that it was a backwards pass on a fumble. I think one of the most unfortunate things about this is like what Austin said. They did battle back uh, to have make it a decent game and make it close there at the end. Unfortunately, the SEC and Greg Sankey and everyone over there don't want to admit that they made a mistake, which is very unfortunate because they have everything in their power to make this right. But like kind of how this year has gone for a lot of different things, they won't. If I'm a leader in that locker room, I say, how can we fix things that we did to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because the SEC has shown their hand. Like if we put this in the SEC's hands, they're not going to make the right decision. They won't do it. So how can we learn from our mistakes, whether it was offense, defense, or special teams, to make sure that this does not happen again? Because like I said, clearly if it does, they won't do the right thing. So heart's broken for those guys. Wasn't a perfect game at all. Obviously a lot to learn from in all phases. But that ending, I think that's gonna burn for a while.
Yeah, I mean, being former players, I'm sure you can imagine probably what those guys are going through today afterwards. What do you think they're feeling right now after a loss like that?
Uh, One, just anger, at it, especially at the end of the game. That's your first emotion where you just want to yell at the refs. And then you watch the film, probably frustration where you see plays here and there where, oh, if I just blocked here, or I made this cut here, we wouldn't have even been in that situation. So those are the two. And then you just get over it and on to Ole Miss next week. So that's all you can do. Just learn from it, like Travis said, and um, learn from it and try not to be put in that situation again, I guess.
Yeah, I think, if you were to ask me a year ago how I thought that this would go from here on out, it'd be very different than right now. I think if it was still kind of the same situation they were in last year, this is going to drag them down for the rest of the season. Now, I think who they have in there and the coaching staff they have in there and sort of the momentum that they have going now that guys are actually buying in and whatnot, I think they're going to use this as fuel for the next game. Um, and kind of have this in the back of their mind of, man, this really sucks. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. They're going to make the corrections. I know they will, and just use whatever they can, good and bad, to make sure that you have, the remainder of your season is going to be positive.
Yeah, you talk about the improvements that they need to make. I'm wondering what you guys think they need to work on to make sure that another game doesn't come down to basically the officials making a call.
Yeah, I think just the most noticeable is special teams. I thought game one, it was a little bit of a struggle here and there. And then I thought they tightened things up in game two. And then yesterday, you're punting the ball from your 2 yard line. They're coming with an all out block. Your one job is to try to get it off. And it's something that they'll learn. I mean, I'm sure all those guys out there are young. So I think we have a great coaching staff and a great special teams coordinator. He's going to right the ship there and get him in the film room, and maybe it'll be a weapon from here on out.
Yeah, just piggyback off that, I agree. Special teams right now seems to be the most glaring out of all three phases, but at the same time, the other two phases, they're not perfect by any means. I think if they have to find that chemistry amongst all three phases that complement each other, now we're not saying we're not looking for perfection from all the phases. We just need to find a way that each of them complement each other. And every single, the defense has some things that they need to work on, whether it's from a coverage standpoint or, pressure standpoint. There's not one in particular thing with offense or defense or special teams. It's typically, you have a breakdown at this position, this play. And then, the next time a breakdown happens, it's at a different position. So it's not just one glaring person or position or anything of that nature. I think it's just working the kinks out. I think a lot of this too does have to go back with 2020 in general and COVID and the restrictions of no spring ball, not getting those practices, and not making excuses by any means. But it's, people and teams have had to get creative in how they manage everything. So it's been a funky year. Obviously, I think they're making the most of it. In my mind, they're 2-1. It's not going to reflect that everywhere else. So, just move on to Ole Miss, like Austin.
Oh, there was some good that came out of this game, though. I think mostly that the offense finally seemed to get into a bit of a groove in this one. What did y'all think about Felipe Franks, Traylon Smith, and Davion Warren really stepping up?
Yeah, I thought those three guys really showed a lot, where you could tell Kendall Browse got in a groove in that second half where he was dialing it up, where they did that little middle screen to the running back on some of those, and I was like, that's a great play call, like dialing it up. And then Felipe just showed the confidence in the fifth-year maturity, where he was out there making the right reads, going to get it with his legs, and then he was also accurate downfield passing, where Davion Warren, like you mentioned, he made those 50-50 catches that really set us up on those scoring drives. So overall, I thought offensively they might have started out a little sluggish. I mean, you saw the rain. I mean, it's tough to move the ball in those kind of conditions. But once it dried up, I really felt like they hit a groove and played their best ball of the year so far.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Austin. It's, and you've been there. We've both been there. Anytime you're playing in rain, you're going to use those first couple series or something like that to kind of
get fun.
Exactly. How's this going to go, especially on a grass field too. So, I mean, it was obvious, started slow. Thankfully, they got themselves out of it, which I think is a huge attribute that fans should take away from this is, you should be worried if you start slow and you stay slow. You don't get anything going, which I think was the case last year and from the years past. Now, take a little positive away from it. Yeah, we started slow, but we were able to get out of this. Felipe, I thought he did a great job as the game went on and kind of got in a rhythm. Like what Austin said, Traylon did a great job. Was kind of carrying the workload there for a while just because he had the hot hand. A lot of good things to take away. I think this team's really heading in the right direction.
Well, in the right direction. You've got Ole Miss coming up this weekend. I'm curious what you guys think about that matchup for homecoming for the Razorbacks.
That's a high-powered offense that they got over at Ole Miss. I caught the end of that game when they played Alabama. And I mean, every team in the SEC is obviously going to have great players, great coaches. That's why it's the SEC. So I'm sure they know what they're up against. And Barry Odom have all the faith in the coaching staff to put together a great game plan and hit on those tendencies and try to slow them down. I don't think you'll be able to shut them down, but all you need to do is slow a team like that down. If the offense can continue improving and kind of build off their second half, it's going to be a great game. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a good one. And everyone saw how they battled Alabama last night. And, their defense has always been respectable. And I know everyone wants to talk about the Lane Kiffin offense, and they're doing a good job right now and everything. I just think you need to respect this team on all phases that they have right now. It'll be a good one. It'll be a fun one. I know, like I said earlier, I think the guys in that locker room are going to use what happened yesterday to help motivate them and prepare this week. They're probably going to be a little more prepared than what they typically are, just because the sting of this one's going to be a reminder for them. Yeah. Even after they're done playing, they'll talk about this one for a while. I think they're going to be ready for this one. Coming up this week, though, just because it's, you have to move on to the next one at some point, whether it's today or tomorrow or yesterday after the game. So it'll be a good one for them.
Just another chip on the shoulder for the Razorbacks going forward. But guys, thank you so much for your time, Austin Allen, Travis Swanson. We really appreciate your insight. That's going to do it for our football roundtable, though. We've got more on the pig trail after the break.